Yeah, this and that and this. Alright, so the current version that is now about to be released, that is version 1.14. And yeah, also notice that with AutoTonic I'm not going to count upwards like version 1, version 2, version 3, where you always have to pay or upgrade to the next version. So this is rather all version 1, and then the second number will count up with all the new releases or beta versions. And as the latest public version that was released was version 1.12 actually, and we are now at version 1.14 already, and this is the version that I'm gonna release now for everyone again. And so with the beta versions, I want to cover now a bit what has had been added recently with all these recent versions. So let's scroll down here, and by the way, I'm going to you can also on the website go to here to news and read it on your own. So basically version 1.12 was the latest version that was released publicly. That is the version that introduced the mirror keyboard. Remember, here's this little button here, and by that you can toggle on the mirroring, and the mirroring, as you can see now, the high notes are on the left and the deeper ones on the right. So that inverts basically the keyboard, and it's really fun to play in free play. Right, but it's not about the mirror version. That was the latest publicly released one. Then there was some silent update as always with fixes, and so yeah, let's jump to the next big version. That was this beta version, version 1.13, and that introduced NUKE Mode. Let's start with NUKE Mode and jump through all the new features that had been added, or that are now upcoming. So NUKE Mode is basically can be found here, and so there's this little this screw, and yeah, we all love screws in applications. But once you press it, then basically the whole keyboard gets this overlay, and then what does it do? Basically, so you're not all the black keys you're gonna hit become white keys as well. And well, how does it work? Well, you would think, of course, this then is logically added up on each other. So once you hit the first key, it notices, and then when you hit the second one, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, the seventh, and so on, it increases basically, you can see it here above, the next upcoming note, and translated it basically even further than with the regular mapping. So that allows of really fun play, so you can press your actual the chords that you are used to, for example, all these triads with black keys, and you can also now feed existing music into it and basically reharmonize even harmonic context or music scores that contain black keys. Yeah, that's really fun. And just a quick recap of what is NUKE Mode. NUKE Mode basically means every key, black and white key, will become the playing keys. And in this mode, you cannot then switch between the other, between the headers. So this is all become playing keys. I wrote something also about it. I sent some well-known music through it, and yeah, you can look it up on the news page, or I also will cover it more closely in an upcoming video. Alright, the next thing that I want to look at is the new Scale and TonicModifier Widget. And yeah, by widget I mean that there is once you look closer, then you can see here, there is always written now what actual key is selected. And also for the scale, once you change the scale here, there is a representation of X and O, which scale currently is selected, basically. So if you go to, of course, then it's X, O, 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 and so on. And these widgets, these are interactive panels here. So once you click here and then drag it onto your desktop, then there will be found a MIDI file that represents, for example, this scale switch, or also for the tonic. So here we go. So you can then have this this particular tonic or scale modifier setting, and what these MIDI files contain is basically the information what key or what scale AutoTonic should be playing in, and you can then drop this into the DAW, and from there, when it reverse or the input is the output of the DAW, then AutoTonic will automatically switch the scale or the key once the playhead comes across. And that is really cool, because then it automatically switches in your DAW once it comes across a certain play area or time, certain point in time. And you can see also here that there are the MIDI notes 0 to 11 are triggering the tonic. So basically the MIDI file looks like this, and you can understand now that this is basically the reverse learning, and that it's outside of their usual playing areas, so it's very low and very high in the MIDI area. But I will cover this in the later point as well. That's tonic and scale learn with these new widgets here. Alright, the next cool thing that I also wanted to show you is that finally there is now an indicator, the CenterScreen Indicator here, it is written, and that does now show which scale currently is selected also in the main screen. So you have to, once you're in AutoTonic, then and all the panels are closed, then you can see here in the middle, in the center screen, remember toggling this, clicking here toggles this between the various mode panels and the clean screen is it called. And here you can see this is now F-sharp Ionian major scale, and of course once you change something, then it is represented here in the center now as well. So that is quite handy, and it does not only say which scale and which tonic, but it also shows the label in the library in which category it basically is sorted in. So this is minorish scales, and it also tells us here in the folder minorish. Alright, something else really cool is this new pin on top mode. So basically there's a new switch here, or a needle on the top left of the application, and once you activate it by simply clicking on it, then the whole application window gets pinned. So you can see I'm now here using Google Chrome in the background, but AutoTonic stays on top. So it's the top application. It does not disappear behind Google Chrome, it rather stays on top of Google Chrome. And yeah, you can pin and unpin AutoTonic here basically. So this is very useful, as AutoTonic of course is not a plugin, so it is not always on top in your DAW. But once you need to work with AutoTonic closely, then you of course can pin it here and always have it on top like a floating window. Well, and something else really cool about the main main window, application window, is that there is now a resize, resizing of the user interface. And you can either hit a keyboard command, it's like the control key and then plus or minus, as you're used eventually from Photoshop or other applications. Or you can go here and simply find these plus and minus buttons. That will also do the job. So once I press plus, then you can see AutoTonic enlarges and will become bigger in size. I'm used to do it with the keyboard short commands. So minimizing or maximizing or enlarging or increasing the size. And then there is also can be found the reset button. And once you hit that, then AutoTonic closes. That's required to do, unfortunately, and opens in the default size. And that is the default 1:1, the compact AutoTonic size. It's rather minimalistic everything, and that's on purpose. AutoTonic shouldn't be a very large space consuming app. It's meant to be very compact and as small as possible. Also, there's a shortcut. So once you have resized the application, for example, then you can also hit Control and backspace or return. Backspace, I think it is. The arrow that points to the left on top of the return key. And that will also restart AutoTonic in default size, as you can see here. Well, and the next really cool feature that was introduced here with version 1.13, which was, by the way, to once again remind you, this was the previous beta release, and beta version was not publicly available yet. So, and everything I'm covering here now is coming up in the new public version 1.14 now. And that is this Cheesegrinder Mode. And that's also a bit of experimental, but it's really fun already. And let's reset it here. And Cheesegrinder Mode can be found here on this and the left screw. And once you click that, yeah, that does indicate Cheesegrinder Mode is on by showing this cheese grinder graphic here. All right. And what does it do? So, well, so when it's not on, then keys are sounding as long as you press them, of course, as it is intuitive and usually. But once you hit, once you enable this Cheesegrinder mode, you can hear it. Then it immediately, once the note on signal is sent, it will also at the same time or immediately send the note off signal for it. So it's sort of staccato on purpose. No matter how long you press down the key. And that's fun to play and really inspirative to use. And even, you know, it's like the decay and release time if you set it on a synthesizer very low or very short. And some instruments, of course, does not have that and stuff. And that is also the MIDI, the initial signal. It's very unique to play with. And it's sort of as if you had some sort of filter that immediately cuts off the note. And no matter what instrument you're using, even on a piano or a harp or some trombone or whatever, or a synthesizer, of course. And yeah, very inspirational to use. Cheesegrinder mode. I recommend everyone trying it out. Then we, of course, also have some new shortcuts. For example, here you can see it, I can also enlarge it a bit, that N toggles the NUKE mode on and off, so you don't even have to press this button here, it's N now, and Command or Control, and then plus and minus is the rescaling, the application window, and also Command and Control and Return resets it. So return, it's actually backspace. So once you hit the left pointing arrow with above the enter key. and clicking on a scale or a tonic modifier copies also the data. So once I click here, then I've copied the XXXO, whatever that means now. So yeah, you get the point. It does then show it does copy this X and O pattern. So you could even then add this here, fun to play with, and then add it here, for example, or add some other, this one, and then click here and add all your scales here. And holding down while alt clicking is also, that copies the same data but in another format. So once I click here with alt pressed, then we're gonna see, for example, the name, the actual name and the XO pattern. And the same here. Once I click here only, so not dragging, then it's only the C. And once I alt and click here, then we're gonna see this sort of pattern with the key and then a slash and then the X and O pattern, the scale. And that is actually useful, for example, if you want to rename regions in your DAW. So it's an organizing thing or tool or feature to also be able to copy these informations quickly. Again, dragging these widgets, from the tonic or from the scale modifier widget. So once I click and drag this, then this will create the MIDI file, and same with the key. Sorry, I have to first activate AutoTonic, of course. Yes, here we go. And also, if I'm going to hold down Alt here while dragging from the tonic modifier or widget, then I can also, for example, you can see, create these files. Well, that's not what I meant. Yes, then it will be copied in an alternate version. So now it currently only contains the information. If I without alt dragging, it contains the information C, and once I alt and click and drag, then it not only renames the file differently, but it also, as you can see it now here, it's called C Raga, and here it was not only Raga, and that also contains now tonic and scale modifier, both at the same time. So it's actually switching into both. You can decide whether you want to only include in the MIDI file the tonic switching or the scale switching, or both the tonic and scale switching. For that you have to use Alt while dragging. Respectively, it also will create, once you drag this down with Alt, then they will create alternate namings. Yeah, so as said, I will also cover all these stuff eventually with real life examples in a later video, because this is also something that you eventually want to do with the DAW open in the background. So that's meant to be dragged. That will be MIDI files. These are MIDI files. And these MIDI files can be dragged directly into the DAW and then will become the actual key switchings for AutoTonic. AutoTonic then will listen to this part. That's the workflow I meant. And will, once the playhead comes across it, then will automatically switch into this particular tonic or scale or both or once. And really cool. So you can basically re-perform songs that you created, even without saving any database or header setup. Automatically, AutoTonic will learn these scale and tonic settings, so there's no need to store any information for any particular song separately. You can have AutoTonic's key and scale switching saved right into your song. Really cool to use. And I think when using this workflow, that really closes the full circle and makes AutoTonic absolutely integrate into your DAW. Yeah, and that's it for version 1.13. There were of course also bug fixes and minor improvements, etc. So what else is in our newest version 1.14? And here is the stuff that I also recently implemented. So that was version 1.13 now, and version 1.14 now is the thing with the let's start with that, because you can see already colors are changing, and then jump to the first thing, the custom colors. So we can now customize AutoTonic's user interface appearance, and that is a very simple process. But I only found the solution to do it by some sort of text editor currently, and you've got to open it in a separate text editor. So there's this reset button, you can remember, it's from rescaling the user interface. But once you alt click on the reset, then it actually opens or navigates on your file, on your system, to the text file that is associated with AutoTonic, and this is some AutoTonic skin file that is now created once you start the application, and it will be creating such an AutoTonic skin txt file in the user folder, and there you have some values here, and this is always the first entry is the active one, and this is this block here. And I also added by default some examples. You have here the default also as a backup, this block, the next one here. And then I've added, for example, this Halloween or green, pinky, juicy theme, or then this red, bluish. And you would apply this by simply copying it. So you go here, select it, copy it, and then replace it with this very first block, with the active one, okay? And once you have that, simply save the file, and now you can go back to AutoTonic and simply restart the application, whether you do it here, or you can also simply press reset. That will also restart the application. This is by the way, the text file's path. And you can see now that now the colors are changed. And I mean, I'm not sure how to, you say, it's not that particular, you cannot define every single color, but there's some overall, and I think understandable syntax here, like hue degree, hue factor, hue clamping, saturation value, saturation factor, saturation clamping, lightness value, and you can play with these values. You can see the default one here has 0, and then in this theme it has 1000, and the hue factor in this one is 166. So that's some sort of degree defining offsetting from the initial value. So the initial value is 0, and that's 306, and etc. etc. You can look up these values on your own. This is the default values, and now we've tweaked some values, and we're coming up with this red and bluish appearance. And I found it really cool. It is fun to play, and you can find really beautiful themes by playing on your own, and or experimenting, and there are no rules, and sometimes it might even look ugly or too black or too dark or too light, and that's something on your own to experiment with, and eventually you're then gonna enjoy using the application a bit more, or I don't know, feel a bit more inspired eventually by the colors. So that's basically it. That's the color themes now, and I wrote it down here in the new section of the website as well. So basically all this where you can find the text file, but as said, once you have AutoTonic open, then you can simply Alt click on the reset button and it will navigate to this location. So here, simply Alt click here and the text file should open on its own with the default text editor, and then simply save it and restart the application to apply the colors. Exactly. And then there are also some notes here, but I eventually also gonna cover this one as well, much more further deeply in a later video. Then something else new, a bit more experimental, and I thought, yeah, I was adding in code. I had to add this this Chromium browser engine additionally, but I now stepped back again from it, and it was looking fine with rounded edges and stuff. It's some sort of interactive help mode, but I now stepped back from it and won't do it like I did it initially, and that's also why it took me so long, and I struggled with the current release for a while now. But and it's now AutoTonic is not gonna increase. I have to update this here on the website. But you now can find. Well, let's also close this one here now. Don't need this one. And yeah, let's reset it. So there is now this interactive help button, and it's also not on this side here as it was here in this screenshot or initially thought. So you can find it now on the left here. There it is. It's a question mark, and once you click it, then this interactive help will be on. So basically it means that there are these cards here, these tooltips, they are called, and they show up once you hover something. And in particular cases, I mean, that's not telling you how much CenterScreen status title, okay, but and resize button 2 or panic button, sync button. So these are not done yet, but there will be areas like this one where then there will be extended information about, yeah, some tips eventually, or what the feature is all about and how to use them. And also I'm gonna plan to implement links that eventually, if you're gonna click them, then they're gonna open in your browser by default, and will point out the particular topic or what it is all about. And this is not really done yet, and I'm working on it and still playing around with it, but I'm gonna leave it in there already, and so please excuse. It's also something that it fetches on startup from the registration server. So once it finds some HTML for it, then it's gonna implement it and show it, and if not, then not. And so that is something that will be showing up over time further and further. So please, yeah, even that's currently not working. Should actually redirect to the browser. All right, so that's the thing with the help interactive help, and I'm planning to, yeah, you know, to add some new dialogues here, or tips, or workflow tips, or step-to-step instructions. That is all upcoming currently and in the making, but I'm gonna leave it already in there for the release, and you're gonna see it, and exactly, that will be already there. Well, and then the really latest feature that I'm actually really a new thing to use, that I'm really excited about, is I've redone and improved the chord stacking. And if you remember, chord stacking was already there. It can be found here in the center, here actually, this X. And once you click, once you click into this X here, there we go. Let's also turn off the exactly. Once you click here into the X, Then you can, of course, for example, add some syntax like this. And that means now once I press one key, then it will play this sort of pattern. But you can, I've added new syntax and a lot of stuff that is very useful. Just let me run through it very quickly. I'm gonna do dedicated videos on all of this later, but this is just a sort of teaser introduction video for the already all very lengthy stuff. So if I'm gonna capitalize, for example, the X here, then what does it mean? And hit enter. Then it means that the one key that I'm pressing is gonna be the capitalized one. So I can really offset stuff. And also, I could define, instead of using this capitalized glyph, the X, I can also define, for example, yeah, this should be always like C sharp, for example. And what it's gonna do now, it will switch to the tonic and play a C sharp. And the cool thing is now that this center, the capitalized glyph is always gonna define like the anchor. So there will be always this C sharp, and you can see it automatically does do inversions depending on where I'm gonna toggle. So these will be always having the same structure, but it then, for example, uses the inversions that and even with using fourths. For example, if I'm gonna add here this, then it will find all the suitable or existing inversions for the fourth chords. And then I could also define stuff like, yeah, but we're gonna add this part here, this one has to be locked, so only this area should be always the same exact constellation. So and only this is allowed to alternate. And then you're gonna, so you can see there are these switching points then, depending on where I toggle. Yeah, and all this stuff I'm also gonna cover in a later video. There's a lot going on with this, and you can add the root nodes, and you can group stuff and lock stuff, and here are even examples, crazy stuff. For example, even using octave pitching up, pitching down, or even defining the tonic or not, or can even use multiple stuff or leave out nodes. All this syntax you can find on your own, and also can create automated header switching. So you can even if you're gonna if you're gonna implement, for example, trigger a number, a MIDI number that is a header, then it will automatically trigger the header. And so therefore you can switch back and forth between a header only by pressing one key. It's really fun to use. Also, for example, let's just simply throw this stuff in there now. These are just some suggestions I did once. So when I hit a note here, whoa. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and you could decipher now what's going actually on. It's starting on F sharp, then uses this pattern, but always depending on, of course, where you toggle it. So it will use inversions and stuff to be triggering the stuff that is always the closest to the triggering node, initial node. And then it uses another pattern that also has some locked part here. And that stuff is even turned pitched down a whole octave. And then you have this stuff that is basically telling you the notes where you trigger stuff. You can also try it like this, erase this. So when I press this button here now, this key, number 60, then it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th white key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6th white key is the actual one that is going to be triggered. Always remember, pressing Alt and clicking resets this thing back to the default X. X just means what you play, and what you press is the one that is actually gonna be triggered. That is just a sneak peek. There will be lengthy videos and deeply covering videos and stuff and topics that we're gonna have to dive into. That is chord stacking, and that is now improved and gonna be just the beginning of something that I'm looking forward to implement very soon. That will have to do with, yeah, I cannot teaser, I should teaser it. It will have to do with cadences. And, but it is an upcoming topic, and not even started yet, because there are still a lot of bugs to fix and yeah, crashes to avoid if so, and I hope, yeah, but it should be. I tested it extensively, or sort of now, and still find stuff all the time, but will update and resolve crashes or any issues, of course, because all this stuff takes a lot of work, and with every new implementation there are showing up 20 new issues, and that's how it is with old code. And yeah, that's it about this new upcoming version 1.14. I guess this will have gotten a very lengthy video already, and so I'm gonna hear you soon here, and that's it for now, and enjoy this very soon to be released version 1.14. Have a great time. Bye.